Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakal Kadash, double honors to the elders and apostles, great millstone. And a shout out to Yakim that's out there on the four quarters of the earth proclaiming this truth. As we know, the time is getting near where we can no longer warn about these things, but what's happening now, especially in Syria, which, if anybody knows, that the prophecy says that we are to not abhor a Syrian, for he is thy brother, but as you know, though, that Syria had also partaken in bringing down Israel to where we would no longer remember that we were Israelites. They pushed Christianity just as much as Ishmael pushes Islam, and just deceitfulness, you know, help Esau to conspire that we would no longer remember that we were Israelites, so that way we would think that the Edomites are the Christians. But now Ishmael and Syria have no problems telling you that, oh, those are not the real Jews. You know, that even Egypt, which is Ishmael, which is Ishmael now, in other words, had even said, well, they left black and came back white. You know, had said that most recently. I think it was Hosni Mubarak that said that before they ousted him, you know, which we know that Barack Obama, the Hamite, was behind that. But anyhow, yeah, about the OPCW cleanup, they found no evidence whatsoever to support the idea that Bashar al-Assad had used weapons against his own, which the truth has come out about that. And everybody knows that that was a false flag, but they're planning another false flag because, of course, Bashar al-Assad has been cleaning up all these terrorists and have made deals for the terrorists to leave, you know, which the Israeli state refuses to leave alone. That's why the drone and, you know, their continued airstrikes, so eventually they're going to get the United States involved. So let's go ahead and play this. Syrian girl, you know, better known as Mimi, talks a little bit about the OPCW, and then we'll get into some other things.
Hello guys, I hope you're doing well. Today I want to discuss and address the latest report of OPCW regarding the Duma, the alleged chemical attack in Duma. On the 6th of July 2018, the OPCW issued the statement, and it included a lot of details thanks to their investigation, underground investigation in Duma. They came to Syria after the invitation of the Syrian government. Today I want to address this issue with the Syrian girl. She's a prominent Syrian activist and commentator, and also she is an expert in chemistry. So she will add value to our discussion and try to shed light on the difference between the chlorine and the chlorine gas and other sarin gas. I don't know, I'm an ignorant in this regard, but Mimi is the one who will tell us about all these details. Hello Mimi, hello Syrian girl, and thank you very much for accepting my invitation.
I'm glad to finally be on this channel. It's always been a dream of mine.
We were planning for a long time for such an interview with you, and because she's in Australia and I'm in Germany and the time difference is very big between us, but now I'm free and she's free and we are doing it on Syriana analysis. Actually, the OPCW issued the statement. I believe it's important because this time the OPCW experts were underground in Syria and not from neighboring countries, as it was the case in Khan Sheikhun. And starting from the second article of the summary of their findings, the OPCW says that they were not able to go to Duma for almost a week for their arrival, after their arrival to Syria, because of high security risks to their team. This was an evaluation of the OPCW and not by the Syrian government or the Russian government, as the Western mainstream media was claiming. Mimi, do you remember that at that time the governments in the West and the media, the MSM, were saying that the Russians and the Syrians are banning the OPCW to go there, but from the report, it's obvious that it's the security team of the OPCW which says and evaluated that it's not possible to go there in the first week.
Absolutely. You know, this is point 2.2 in the OPCW report that said that they had a risk due to sleeper cells that might still be operating inside Duma and unexploded grenades and ordnances that didn't allow them to go into the area. It took approximately a week to do that, but of course, at the time, the reports that were coming out in the media was that the Syrian government has something to hide, and so does the Russian government, and hence they are blocking the OPCW from reaching the chemical weapons site, etc., etc. And of course, we knew that wasn't true at the time. We said that wasn't true at the time, and this report exposes that. But the media is not going to retract any of the statements that they made.
Absolutely
At
not.
that time, Mimi, you, myself, and myself, we were accused of being conspiracy theorists for saying that. And now it appears 100% that these people who claim to be part of the mainstream media with billions of dollars in their budgets, that they are the conspiracy theorists and not we are the conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, it's never a theory when they're talking about conspiracies, is it? It's always the claim that their words are official, and as we know, they are the biggest liars that are out there, basically.
So as you said, Mimi, they are lying not only about the OPCW, but since the beginning of the war in Syria. Now, if we go to 2.5, the point 2.5, they say the results of the analysis of the prioritized samples submitted to OPCW designated laboratories were received by the OPCW team on the 22nd of May 2018. Now, this is the important thing. They say no organophosphorus nerve agents or their degradation products were detected, either in the environmental samples or in plasma samples from the alleged casualties. So here, people are asking what's the organophosphorus nerve agent when it comes to chemical weapons. Mimi, if you can elaborate a little bit this.
Basically, it means sarin or sarin derivatives. If you looked at the chemical formula for sarin, it has a phosphorus atom in it, and it's also an organic substance. So this is where the term comes from.
So this is the gas that they claimed to be used to have been used in Khan Sheikhun last year in their report. But the difference was that the OPCW team, they didn't go to Khan Sheikhun at that time, and they collected their samples from the activists underground and from the white helmets who are basically a Nusra Front humanitarian wing. So they violated their own charter. And some people always, when we talk about these things, for example, on Twitter, they put this link of the OPCW and say, look, the OPCW claimed that it was a bombing from the Syrian government in Khan Sheikhun, but the fact is they violated their own charter, and they violated their own how the organization works for their investigation, and they collected their samples from a third party. So it is a null and void, that report, and they need to go to that particular place. But actually, Al-Nusra already destroyed the entire area of that chemical weapon, so nothing could be found again in that particular
place. And even if you read this report, in point 2.4, they said that, in this case, that they followed the organization's chain of custody procedures. Whereas in Khan Sheikhun, of course, they didn't follow a chain of custody because they had the white helmets collect up supposed samples, which could have obviously been either tampered with or contaminated. Nevertheless, even if they did discover sarin in those samples, it doesn't discount the fact that the rebels are fully capable of using sarin in Khan Sheikhun as well.
And that's what they do, is they generally go and they stage these events so that way the Israeli state, which can't really do that much without the United States, have a reason to bomb Syria, because of course that's the whole idea, is getting the United States to do the rest. That's what they always done. And there's let's see here, well, we've seen mostly that as you know, there's over the weekend in Chicago in particular, which is where Brother Malcolm was from, so we pray for Chicago camp, but this has been happening, so they're staging another event like the Ferguson riots, and of course this is because, well, we'll just let the report speak.
Break out in the city of Chicago following the police's shooting of an African-American man suspected of carrying a gun. Violent protests happened on Saturday in Chicago's predominantly black South Side neighborhood. A crowd of about 150 residents shouted murderers and obscenities while throwing objects at police near the site of the incident. Officers armed with batons squared off the protesters, with punches being thrown on both sides. Officials say the protests were triggered by rumors that the man was unarmed.
They approached the subject who became combative, and as he became combative, flaming away, he broke free from the officers, and what they thought he appeared to be reaching for a weapon, which he did have a weapon on him, and the officers tragically shot this man.
Officials also reported 3 or 4 minor injuries, as well as several arrests. Questions of police accountability and the use of force have dominated public discourse in the United States for years. Crossing over to Tampa, joined by a member of the Black.
So anyhow, yeah, you know, we're in the midst of Jacob's trouble now because of the fact that it is starting to hit Issachar as well as other places. But mostly I wanted in this 2 videos to talk more about Syria, but that's just something else that also happened. So I'm going to read out of Isaiah chapter 17. The burden of Damascus. Behold, Damascus is taken away from being a city, and it shall be a ruinous heap. The cities of Aurora forsaken, which that's northern Africa. For they shall be flocks which shall lie down, and none shall make them afraid. The fortress shall also cease from Ephraim, which is the northern kingdom, and the kingdom from Damascus, and the remnant of Syria, they shall be as the children, the glory of the children of Israel, saith the Lord of hosts. So what's that talking about? Well, that's talking about how the remnant of Syria and of Damascus, you know, are going to pretty much, they're going to serve slavery for, you know, pretty much, you know, and, you know, it's just because they conspired with Esau as well. So for that, you know, I'm just going to wrap it up there. You know, it's more than obvious that the reason why Syria's getting jacked up is because of the fact that it's recompense for what they did when they conspired with Esau. When they were confederate with Esau, that we would no longer remember who we were. Shalom.